Alright, I'm Christine McDonald from Rushing River Apiaries, and I am out at one of our bee yards. It is finally starting to look springy out here. A few of our yards closer to town are snow-free already. This is one of the snowier locations. I still had to drag everything in here on a sled, but we're getting closer. And it's beautiful out today, as you can see. And I'm just gonna clean out a few dead outs while I wait for it to heat up enough to get into some of our big hives. So I'll just show you a little bit of what I do when we're cleaning up a hive that has not survived the winter and we're getting it ready to move some new bees into. We're seeing a lot of the same thing in our dead outs this year. We're seeing a lot of late supersedure, so kind of failed attempts by the bees to requeen themselves, and failed because they were doing it so late in the year. So what we're finding are queen cells when we know that there were no queen cells there at the end of the summer. So a lot of that we are chalking up to the fact that we used Formic Pro quite late in the year. It was the first time we've used it as a fall treatment, and we just didn't have time before it got too cold to keep following up on the queens. So Formic Pro, it's an amazing treatment. The only one you can use with honey supers on, the only one that penetrates the brood cappings, but it does come with that slightly higher risk of queen supersedure. Let me take my earrings out, I can hear them knocking on the headphones. Trying this out for better sound, but it's not going to be better sound if headphones are banging away. There we go. All right. Yeah, so not sure that we would use Formic Pro late in the year again. Probably make an effort to get it on earlier, or use that as our spring treatment when there's still plenty of time to make sure bees have recovered from it. We also had some smaller populations going into this winter, and I think we kind of chalked that up to two things. Also the Formic Pro and the impact that it had on our queens kind of late in the year when we would be building up those winter populations, and also the fact that we had a terrible spring last year. Just cold for months, and the bees really spent all summer recovering from that. So as I go through here, I will be looking for any evidence that I should not be reusing this stuff, but we know that we weren't seeing any brood disease in these hives last year, and so we can pretty safely chalk it up to mites or queen failure over the winter. But we always look for signs. I take the time when I'm cleaning up dead outs to scrape down the propolis off the bars so that everything fits together a little better. They get real gummed up in the fall, and we want everything to slide nice and easy in the spring to make our job simpler. We have, on the whole, we've been seeing lots of honey left over in all of our hives. This one's a little light so far. There's a good patch though. We do our best to clean up the surfaces of the frames, but I'll show you this little patch right here. There's a bit of mold. There's a bit of like dead bees still stuck in the cells. That's fine. The next bees in here will clean that up. No problem. So we do a pretty quick cleanup. There's another similar little patch that I'll just try and get them off with my brush as best I can, but I don't spend too much time worrying about it because a new hive can take care of that. Take everything out for now because I'll clean off the bottom board. Oh no, there's a drone in there. Not a live one. if you have dead oats and you are ordering bees or buying bees to replace them, a package is a good option to put into a dead oat. Usually I recommend that people start out beekeeping with a nuke because they'll get a quicker build up, especially if you have a short season like we do in the north. You'll get a quick build up and they can get through that first winter. But once you've already got all this drawn comb, then you can kind of save the money and go with a package, and they can set up shop in this comb that's already established. You also, if you're cleaning up a dead oat that has, you know, a whole box of honey left over, that honey is still good underneath those cappings. Sometimes it can look a little icky on the surface if there's some moisture buildup or some mold. We will occasionally, you know, you can extract it. The honey in there is good, but if it looks too gross so that you don't want to, you can stick it on top of a clean hive for a few days and they'll clean it right up. And then you can extract it. You do want to consider what mite treatment you used and whether it's something that can persist in honey, but if it was Formic Pro or even oxalic acid that doesn't really persist in honey, then you are good to go. You can also use it to feed back to other colonies, or just to give your newbies a little head start with some food frames. Just about through here. So for now I'm just scraping everything into the bottom box, because then I'm going to take my garbage bag and clean on the bottom board, sorry. I'm going to take my garbage bag and clear off the bottom board into it. You can tell there's not a whole ton of bees in here. I will show you the bottom board, but it was not a huge population to begin with. That is for sure. I also scraped down the propolis off the edges of the box here so that those frames slide back in there really easily. There we go. That's not too bad. If there's any wax built up on the sides, get rid of that. And then there's our bottom board. You can see it's not a massive number of dead bees. It certainly was not a full hive. All ready to dump into our garbage bag here. Reducer. Now, when we're putting this back together, we do a couple things differently. We don't have bees ready to go into this right now, so I'm going to leave it sealed up. And one easy way to do that is to actually stick the inner cover as a floor. So my box is going to sit on there. And then that keeps it sealed from the bottom. I'm still going to put the colony back together, or the frames back together, the way that they would be to accept a new hive. So If I have empty frames with not much honey, they're going to go in the middle. If I have big heavy frames with lots of honey, they'll go to the outsides. And that way they're ready for bees to set up nest in the middle. Honey stores to the outside. One's empty. Mostly empty. Heavy. Anything like that without foundation, I stick on the edge. Once they've established a bit of strength, then I'd stick that in the middle and let them work on it. There we go. Now when I put my attic box back on, there is no top entrance anymore. We'll just keep storing the insulation in there. Anyway. And this hive is ready to get some new bees. And I am ready to take this sweater off. It has warmed right up. I've been working through all of our doubles. Pretty much across the board, our doubles survived and our singles didn't. Not all of them. Most of our losses were in our singles, which are singles for a reason. You know, we like to overwinter in 2 boxes when there are enough bees. So maybe something to take away from there, that we need to be a little more conservative with what we put into winter. But it's nice to see these big hives doing well. So I'm just doing a little spring clean on these. We love these foil inner covers. We just use them in the winter and through the spring. For the heat of the summer they come off. But man, we find just hives are bone dry with that heat reflecting back down into the colony. There's nothing cold enough to condense and rain down on the bees. So we were in these a couple weeks ago and put on pollen patties. We've been working on one. This one's probably a little too far away from the brood. If you have a hive that is not taking its pollen patties when the others are, it's a pretty good sign that there is something wrong with your queen. But I can already see a little brood down in here on this side, so I think these guys are just kind of off-centered over towards me. So one of the things we'll do today is center them up. I'm going to get right down to the bottom board and clean that out. Still have some nice heavy frames. I'm not taking everything out. This is not cleaning up a outright. I'm just making a little bit of room to get into a brood frame or two and see how our queenie is doing. Oh, there she is. There's the queen and some really nice eggs and small larvae on this frame. I don't know if you can see right into the bottom of the cell. But that is nice. And I noticed on the next frame a little capped brood, so she's been laying for a week or so. Still a pretty late startup for us up here in the north this year. There we go, just some real pretty sparse capped brood for now. But they're setting up the nest. It is a little off-centered towards me, so that frame that I took out, I'm going to put it back in on the other side. So I'm just going to shove everything over a little bit more towards center. Not doing full hive inspections yet, just doing some brood checks to see where we're at. It helps with our planning to know kind of how far ahead of or behind normal we are. We are quite far behind normal this year with the never-ending winter. So this is a food frame. I'm just going to put it food side in over here, and now they are centered up. I will put those pollen patties back on when I'm done, but we're going to go right to the bottom. I know there's not going to be bees down here, so there's a couple things that you can do. Still a good weight to that. there's some on the top, but there's nothing happening down in this box. If I were closer to my truck, I would probably take this box off and give them a couple weeks to build up, and then I would throw it back on top. This hive is small enough that they only need one box for the next 3 weeks to a month. I am too far from my truck. I had to sled everything in here, so I'm not going to do that. I'm also not going to reverse yet because they're not ready for that box on top. So I'm kind of just going to leave things where they are, but I am going to clean off this bottom board. And you can see there's quite a lot of dead on it. This is actually not as many as I've been seeing in a lot of hives, but something that I think people don't realize or don't remember is that the bees aren't meant to survive from one season into the next. All those winter bees die, and it's just kind of a race against time whether they can live long enough for your queen to start rearing spring bees, in which case your hive has made it, or they don't, in which case your hive has died. And if it's nice flying weather, then all of these bees would have left the hive to die. That's what bees prefer to do. But if you've got a really long, cold winter with months of no flying, then those bees die in the hive, and we can help out by cleaning them up. That's a lot of bee time to clean that all out that we just saved from. They can get pretty stinky. That's why we put them in a garbage bag and truck them out of here, especially if you've got many hives and many dead. We don't like to leave that many dead laying around. So clean this off. We take these off for the heat of the summer, so not too worried about it, but if you see any real nasties growing down here, then you can get rid of them. No? And like I said, I'm going to leave this box on the bottom. They're not quite ready for reversing. I would take it out of here if my truck was closer. Now it's just going to stay put. And hopefully when I'm back here again, they'll be ready for me to reverse those boxes. And it will become their apart box. Quite amazed with how much food they have left. Also very aware that we're a ways from nectar. As their population grows, they're going to eat more. I'll try and get these right over top of the bird nest. These down. Down. Foil layer back on. That comes off once it's nice and consistently warm, but for now it offers some good peace of mind and protection for nights where it dips down below freezing. Same with our attic insulation. We're going to leave it on a few more weeks. We're leaving the wraps off. That won't go back on. That heat of the sun hitting them is going to help them continue to brood up. But we're going to leave the top insulated like that. Throw this entrance reducer back on. And we have spring cleaned this hive. I've already been down to the bottom of this hive, and now I'm just centering the brood in the top. This is I just put back the frame that I showed you with the brand new young workers. There were several of them, which is very nice to see. So I am making sure they're nice and centered in the box, but I also want to show you this. I know most of you are beekeepers, and so you already know this, but I would like to enter this as Exhibit A, that beekeepers do not take all of the honey from their bees. Look at that fat frame left. And there's a lot of these. They still might need it. It's staying in there. This is crunch time as the bees start building up in population. That takes a lot of energy versus what they needed for the winter. Also, those become more mouths to feed shortly. So They still might use the rest of that food, but it's nice to see so much of it left in the hive. These guys, one more pollen patty. We really load on the pollen patties. We are lucky to live in a place without small hive beetle. If you do have small hive beetle around you, then don't put on as much as we do. You want to make sure that they are consuming all of it within 5 days or so before you add more. If you live somewhere with small hive beetle. If not, then lucky you and lucky us, we can give them lots and not worry about them for a couple weeks. Oh, the attic back on. We still have insulation in our attics. We actually leave these attic boxes on all year, but we do take the insulation out once our nights have warmed up considerably. Alright, I just want to show you this frame. There are, well, I'll see if I can find them, maybe you can find them. Some newly emerged little baby bees. Oh, don't come at me, I know they're not baby bees, but brand new spring bees, the next generation. That is one of the happiest things I can find. You're looking for the little, like, lighter colored, real fuzzy ones. I'll try and get my head out of the shadow there. Anyway, been spotting a few. It is a beautiful, beautiful sight. Means this hive has come through winter. There's one right there. The tip of my finger. All right, so I am all cleaned up and just in time to go pick up my kids. Overall, it's pretty awesome to see the bees flying now that their wraps are off. You know, all winter we're insulating them from the cold, but then those wraps, as soon as it starts to get warm and sunny, are really insulating them from that nice spring weather that's gonna kick drive their brood rearing. So it's nice to see how active they are with those wraps off, and hopefully next time we're back we'll see a whole lot more brood and a whole lot more of these hives. Overall we're looking behind, but you know, the hives are healthy. Behind just because of the weather, this brutally long winter and cold spring that's just finally turning now. But I was very surprised to see in 3 or 4 hives just way more brood than in any of the others. So those will be the ones to keep an eye on and probably graft from as soon as we get some drones going. Thanks for watching.